Alrighty. We got Apex killed one of the greatest shooters of all time from Kolev.
So, Apex, the free-to-play shooter that dropped February 4th, 2019, absolutely took the world by storm, crushing giants such as...
You know what's funny? I never paid attention to... I didn't even know Apex was a thing until like a year or two into the game, like when it got released. I just didn't even pay attention to it. I didn't know what the fuck it was. Yeah, I had no idea.
Call of Duty, and even closer to around the time as well, PUBG. To this day, this game still garners around 80,000 to 100,000 concurrent players.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's like 5-6 years old. But this game may have just ruined one of the greatest games, not only of that time, but maybe that we might ever see for the foreseeable future. And it was by the same company. So in this point of the video, you're probably wondering, all right, what game have you been talking about? You may have picked it up by me saying that, you know, it's by the same company. If you did, then you're right. It's Titanfall. Yeah. Titanfall is one of the greatest shooters and the greatest examples of something unique in the gaming space that has happened in a very long time. Now,
Titanfall and Titanfall 2 I would put them among like in their own little subcategory of shooters, just because people that like shooting games like to have their game define an entire subgenre if they can. So yeah, I think I will. So like you got like the shooting umbrella, then you got like third person, first person, and then you have like the tac shooter, you know, CS, Val. Then you got the movement shooter like Quake or Doom, and then you have like the Call of Duty like shooting games. And then Titanfall was the best iteration of blending together like a human, like human v human, or no, pilot v pilot, and like titans or robots in a single arena, and the level will still make sense and feel good and flow correctly, because the developers at the time they just put time and effort into figuring out what felt good and what didn't feel good when it came to the movement of the Titans and the pilots. And I think it's awesome. Like Titanfall is the best iteration of blending boots on the ground with wall running and like double jumping in the air and, you know, grappling hooks and whatnot. I think it's literally the best iteration.
Titanfall definitely did have some of its flaws here and there.
Oh yeah.
And the second one actually made up for a lot of it. But it wasn't the flaws in the game that made the game not as successful like most people think. So let's take it back a little bit. Titanfall released October 28th, 2016. And honestly, this was probably the worst release window that they can ever do in the history of releasing. Now, Respawn as a company was brand new. They were built around 2010, but they were not new to the gaming space. The founders of the company are two legends in the Call of Duty space, creating two of probably the most pivotal and foundational, recognizable, unbeatable, and game-changing Call of Duties that have ever existed. Yeah. I'm talking about Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2.
Though I spent so many hours on these games when I was a little kid on like the regular Xbox 360. So many hours.
We were the leads at Infinity Ward when creating these games, and a lot of people to this day still find them to be some of the greatest Call of Duty games still to this day. However, after the release of Modern Warfare 2, shortly after, they ended up founding Respawn Entertainment. And their inspiration for creating Titanfall was revolving around the success of the Gears of War series, as well as the continued success of Halo.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Gears of War. That also is a shooter. You know, with like the whole what was the thing with Gears of War? Like they had what was it called? The roadie run, where they like crouch down and like sprint, and then when you got close to a piece of cover, you like hit a button and then it just like magnet you to like either the wall or like the ledge or whatever. And that is a form of like a movement shooter, even though it was like essentially created for like controllers or whatever. Um, I had a ton of fun on Gears of War. Fantastic game.
At the time, at least, we all kind of know 343 got it, and it's just like, But anyways, besides the point. So what made Titanfall such a unique thing in the gaming space at the time?
The movement.
Well, really, it was movement.
The movement.
There was nothing like Titanfall. Titanfall's movement,
so good.
Movement was almost parkour-esque. You could run on walls. You had a jetpack. It was almost everything that Halo realistically should be. And at the time, there was nothing.
Everything Halo realistically should have been. I mean, if you read the books and you read the description of like the Master Chief and what the Spartans were capable of, yes, I would agree with you. But you know, conventionally, you know, I think I played a good amount of just Halo 1, 2, and 3, and I think Halo 1, 2, and 3 were fine installments of the game because honestly, shooting games are hard enough as it is when it comes to trying to move your character and trying to aim at the same time. When you try to increase the amount of movement and you give the player a lot of like velocity and shit, and regardless of the fact that you're not even taking account into like the up and down of it, you know, it's just exponentially harder to shoot fast moving targets. It just is. So if Halo 1, 2, and 3 came out with this level of movement, I don't know if it would have been successful. I really don't know. I mean, maybe it could have been, but I just don't think so.
Like it, nothing even close. Of course, around this time, Call of Duty is still kind of trying to find their persona.
Oh, yeah.
They're kind of ramping up the technology, and eventually.
Oh yeah, and even at this time, like, what was it? A year before or a year after, or maybe it was the same year. Call of Duty tried to engage in its jetpack era of Call of Duty, and it was mixed. It was met with mixed reviews, pretty much. Some people liked it, some people didn't. A lot of the times, if I ask somebody like what their favorite Call of Duty was, it's never. They seldom do they ever say it was the jetpack era of Call of Duty, because you know everyone in that community was just, you know, boots on the ground, so on and so forth. And I think it's fine. It's fine to have a bunch of different types of shooters, and for you to prefer one over the other. Like, there should never be a point in time where one shooting game is the best at everything. Like, yeah, like if you want to play like a tac shooter, go play CS or Val, because there's a certain style and game loop that go along with that. If you want to play like a movement shooter, go play Quake, go play Titanfall, or even Apex, or there's probably some other movement shooters I'm not even thinking of. But this is just within the multiplayer FPS genre. You know, I didn't even touch on like roguelikes, which I think have a lot more degree of freedom that you can enjoy within like movement shooting, even more so than like FPS multiplayer.
Eventually, they will create something similar to the game. Of course, years later. So Titanfall comes out April 8th, 2014. This new game, fresh in everybody's mind. The two big things that really attract people. First, the Titans. The Titans is an absolutely crazy concept. In practice, it's not as amazing as people think, but it really is a cool, like, sort of thing to be able to be in a gunfight and all of a sudden call down your Titan to help you assist in the firefight. But like,
it was so cool. Like when Titanfall first came out and in 2, I was still like having so much fun. Yeah, man, like the fact that even as a pilot, like you would think like the Titan is like a kill streak, because Titanfall didn't have kill streaks. Like the Titan was the kill streak, and you could pick and choose your Titan with whatever loadout and so on and so forth. It was still pretty much an even match when it came to like a Titan versus pilot in terms of like gameplay. Because like what was the regular mode called? Attrition. That was like the main mode everybody played, and it had like NPC characters like blue guys, orange guys, where they would just like, you know, just shoot each other, and you could get your Titan faster by shooting like the NPCs, and it would always be a race to see who could get their Titan first. And if you could get your Titan first, that means you could capitalize on taking out like a pilot or whatever. And even when like somebody was first to call down their Titan, it was still possible for like a single pilot to take down a Titan. However, it wasn't like super easy. It was obviously harder than being like on a pilot versus pilot level. If you had a pilot versus a Titan, it was still possible to take down a Titan, but it was just harder. You had to sync like maybe like if you were good, you could probably do it in one life, but like more often than not, it was like 2 or 3 lives.
Like I said earlier, the Titans and the movement of the pilots, which are just the normal people in the game, is really what caught people in, really what captured everybody, captured the audience, and created a game that could actually compete with the AAA titles at the time. But now, let's fast forward again and see where it all went wrong, really. Fast forward to October 28th, 2016. We already can see that the time of release is already pretty bad. Why?
Yeah.
Because this was the scheduled release period of when some of the biggest games in franchise history actually dropped.
Oh yeah.
October 21st, 2016, Battlefield 1 dropped.
Yeah.
Now years later is that
Yeah, Battlefield 1 was a banger when it dropped. And yeah, like the one big issue with Titanfall was on both games, the release dates. And like I like the idea of competition breeds excellence, but in terms of like what it did to Titanfall was more niche of a skill set than the other games that dropped around the same time, as Titanfall. Battlefield was about the same as Call of Duty. Yes, you had vehicles, you had like bullet ballistics with like velocity and shit like that you had to account for. Call of Duty was like more so establishing itself as the arcade shooter. So you had Battlefield bros going off against Call of Duty bros, and wasn't it like Overwatch 1 came out about at the same time as what do you call it? As Titanfall 2?
that game doing super well? I don't know, but still, it's a massive franchise by a massive company and massive publisher, so a lot of people's eyes are already on that game. November 4th, 2016, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
Potentially a real competitor in the same type of movement, futuristic type shooter
Yeah.
as Titanfall. That
But to the discontent of the mainstream Call of Duty audience, they did not like this installment of Call of Duty. They just didn't like it for the most part. I always hear it's like 50-50. I liked it, I didn't like it.
go down very well.
Yeah.
Probably not, but it was still a massive AAA game coming out within the same time frame. And truly, to put
Yeah.
the nail in the coffin, September 8th, 2016, Halo 5
Oh,
came over to PC. This pretty much created all room
Yeah.
for failure, okay? And it
yet another shooting game releasing about the same time as Titanfall 2.
at that point, it didn't really seem like the game even had a chance. There were so many massive games coming out, a game coming to PC that has essentially never been on PC before.
Yeah.
The game was pretty much slated to fail. The first game sold about 10 million copies, which is absolutely amazing for developers' first release, and even for developers' release in general. But when Titanfall 2 came out, it released only about 4 million copies. And that's obviously not even half of what Titanfall 1 sold.
I mean, 4 million copies is still pretty good.
And the reason being is because of all I just mentioned. It was
Yeah.
released during a time when
Yeah, like people were most likely just burnt out from all the shooting games coming out like back to back to back to back to back to back. You know, it is what it is.
the game shouldn't have come out. There was too much competition. It's still a relatively new studio. People know about the first game, so they're probably gonna know about the second game to some extent, But considering they've been playing these other games for, I mean, in some instances, decades, right?
Yeah.
Not all people can spend $60, at least at the time. I know it's 70 now, but spend $60 to be able to pay for multiple games like this. And the sad part about it all was Titanfall 2 was so much better than Titanfall 1.
Oh yeah.
It's actually disgusting. Titanfall's movement and gunplay made you actually feel like you were a super soldier, like you were actually this person in this mechanized suit. You had these abilities and you could go out there and literally do whatever you want. Halo was kind of supposed to be that, right?
Yeah.
But Halo's always been very stiff, right? You can't really ADS.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. I would imagine Halo 2 was initially made for console people. And I think Titanfall was also made for console people. It's just that the Titanfall brand demanded more from the player, a higher level of skill than Halo did. And if you can think and like apply this to like every other type of game, when you try to demand like a higher skill level from the character, or not the character, the player, you kind of push out like the lower skill players into just like entering and playing the game to begin with. Yes, there was like a campaign that was very awesome. It was like, even though it was short, fantastic campaign. But justifying, because how much was Titanfall 2 when it first came out? Like $60 justifying $60 for even like an 8 to like 12-hour campaign, that's like a hard sell. Even though the campaign did come out and like the campaign was good, it also had a multiplayer. It wasn't like this what we have nowadays where like complete like game companies have like a dedicated, you know, live service free to play model of whatever, and it's just multiplayer. Or, you know, what's funny enough is that a lot of these brands you're talking about already, they have already entered the fray of live service. Halo has its own live service of, what do you call it, Halo Infinite. Call of Duty has its live service of Warzone. What else? Does Battlefield have a live service game yet? I don't think so. I think they're still going off like what, 2042, and that costs money. So Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo. What else did we mention? There's probably like a couple more.
The movement's very sluggish, and Halo 5 honestly circumvented some of that, right? It gave you the ability to dodge and all these certain things. Didn't really feel like a superhuman,
yeah,
but you definitely felt more agile than, you know, the entire series really made you feel. And then
yeah, and even then, when you look at like the most recent installation of Halo at that time, I don't even think the players wanted all that movement. I don't even remember, because I don't think I played Halo 5. I played Halo 4 when it came out, and then I just got bored of it, and then 5 came out, and I was just like, whatever. I don't even think the Halo boys wanted all that extra movement, to be honest. They liked just walking around, like jumping up, and the extent of their movement was like crouch jumping. That was it. Yeah. It's like when you take established audiences with preconceived notions of how the physics in their shooting game works, and then you just like amp it up by giving it more movement. Me personally, I like it, but when you apply that logic to like a massive amount of people, I don't really think they enjoy it. Because, you know, while it may feel good to like move the character around in the game, it's not so easy to shoot that same character that has all that increased movement.
if we go to Halo Infinite, they went completely backwards. Now we go to Call of Duty, right? And Call of Duty started out as a military shooter, a simulator. So of course it's going to be more realistic, more boots on the ground, focused about gunplay. But as time went on, you know, people, they wanted more, right? Like, what else can you do? You get newer guns, cool. But the mechanics of the game really stayed the same. And it wasn't until Warzone came out, or Modern Warfare, where people really kind of started figuring out some new mechanics. Now, obviously, we could go back to like Black Ops 4 or Infinite Warfare, Advanced Warfare, those games like that. And those do have similar movement to Titanfall, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It is not as...
Yeah, you fall like a brick in the Call of Duty jetpack era games. With Titanfall, your momentum carries more so horizontally than in Call of Duty, where like you jump up, attach yourself to a wall run a little bit, hop off, and then you just fall like a brick straight down. The physics do not feel the same.
Fluent, it doesn't work that well. I think they went a little bit too far, and their audience wasn't for that. They did not want that type of Call of Duty game. But they still wanted movement, but they didn't want that type of Call of Duty game. But if we go to Modern Warfare, at least the re-release of Modern Warfare with Warzone, you start getting things like slide canceling. You start getting things like bunny hops. And these are not necessarily intentional mechanics, but they're
Oh no, they're absolutely not intentional. This is like emergent player behavior. They just happen because people just play the game and try to squeeze out every little advantage that they can.
Mechanics that can raise the skill ceiling. And that's ultimately the problem that shooters are plaguing now.
Really?
Is the skill ceiling is pretty much aim and shoot. How good is how
Well, if you say the skill ceiling is aim and shoot, if you look at Halo, what was like the not Halo 1, because Halo 1 didn't have ranked. Halo 2 and 3, which is like one of the first shooters, or at least like not the first shooter, but like the first really popular shooter that everyone was like playing when they were a little kid. Halo 2 and 3, which had ranked modes, had multiple different types of ranked modes. So even back in the day, Halo like 2 and 3 were very competitive. It's just that the internet wasn't as prevalent as it is today, and you don't see, every XYZ influencer going around saying, "Oh, I'm like new Halo 2 bro. This is all my tips and tricks to get like a better fucking Halo 2 mechanics. Get more kills in Halo 2. Get more kills in Halo 3." That literally was not around as much as it is today. However, I would argue that FPS games, just in general, are competitive just by nature. I mean, it's the simple gameplay loop of taking your reticle and putting it on someone and keeping it there. Like, you can't get much more simple than that.
How good your aim is. Maybe in some instances, having some sort of situational awareness to be like, okay, I know I need to be here because they're going to be there, right? And it's kind of this loop, and you even could take it to CSGO, especially, right? CSGO, it's all about your aim. Valorant's all
well, yeah. I mean, since these things are games, there is a little bit of game sense, and your aim can take you pretty far. But once you reach up to like the higher, like your aim can carry you up to like some high level, but then up until that point, you can't really solo every match. You start coming into like 5 stacks and so on and so forth, and you start to deal with team strategies.
All about your aim. There's abilities, of course, but at the end of the day, it's how fast you can go from putting your cursor here to putting your cursor there, and tapping somebody's head off. Titanfall changed the entire dynamic of how shooters work, right? They give you movement. No shooter has had movement, let alone fluid movement, like Titanfall. And Titanfall truly revolutionized all of this. Now, one of the weakest points of Titanfall may be the guns have like no recoil, and
this is like a contentious point. The guns having or not having recoil, obviously, this is upon examination of the game years later. Like when I first played Titanfall 2, I didn't give a shit about the recoil or aim smoothing or whether or not like that camera shake. Like I didn't know these terms back in the day. Visual recoil, gun shake, and all this other bullshit. So like when I first played Titanfall 2, obviously if you stand there and just shoot your gun and don't do anything on the controller or the mouse, there is recoil in the guns. However, when you are never really shooting anybody when you're standing still, the game really promotes moving around and shooting. When you start to just move around, there is a little bit, like there are guns that have more recoil than others, but for the most part, certain guns, like the car or like some of the LMGs or the what was it, the R201. Uh, a lot of these guns just simply didn't have like recoil, or the Kraber. Like yes, the Kraber had like recoil after you like fired a shot, but like you didn't have to like there wasn't anything like reticle acceleration upon like moving your mouse or upon like moving your body like you have in like was it like Modern Warfare 3, which is like completely ridiculous. But I would say I didn't really mind dying as much like as a casual player from people that could aim better than me. I just didn't mind it then, and I don't mind it now. Maybe I would think differently if I played the game competitively to figure out like, oh, what's fun, what's not fun. And honestly, if you want to make the game fun, having guns with no recoil actually helps casuals. But because they don't have to account for like the gun recoil and whatnot. But if having zero recoil helps casuals, it will probably also help people that play the game a lot more. So there is that.
A lot of people would say that it's a lot easier to shoot in that game
Yeah.
than probably any other game, honestly. But that is one thing that can easily be fixed, and word on the street, it was being fixed. But a new player came along with
what was he gonna say? Apex? Like the game didn't like the Titanfall 2 aiming and gun mechanics weren't the best. You didn't really have to aim down sight for a lot of the guns because it didn't do anything. It didn't change the recoil. There wasn't this thing called aim smoothing in the game where if you moved your mouse very smoothly, it would reduce the recoil. It's just just drag down and keep the reticle on the guy, and it's probably gonna just stay there for the most part. There was a good bit of what is it called? Camera recoil with what's like the muzzle flash. There was like a good amount of like muzzle flash too, and a little bit of like visual clutter that came along with the game. So there is that as well, but I don't know if giving the game more recoil is gonna like help your casual audience.
Within the same company, of course, to test the waters in the gaming space. Apex.
Yeah.
Apex Shadow launched, again, like I said earlier, February 9th, 2019.
Dang.
And Shadow launched, take that very seriously, because the game kind of just came out. It just came out,
really
shocked everybody, and actually ended up being one of the greatest marketing strategies in the history of gaming. There hasn't been any games that have done anything like that, and this game showed instant success from doing it. What was so amazing, cool, revolutionary about Apex that made everybody jump on? Well, the first thing, it was free to play and it just dropped. So you could literally just go, download it, and try it for yourself. That was huge. So they gained a massive player base really fast just from that. But of course, it was from the creators of Titanfall. And a lot of the people that knew the game, they knew what Titanfall was. They knew how fluent the mechanics were in that game, how smooth everything was, the sliding, all sorts of things. Everything worked really good. And of course, the shooting, there wasn't a lot of recoil. That also carried over to Apex, and it's still like that to this day. But hey, like I'm not gonna talk about it. So Apex,
I mean, the shooting isn't exactly the same. Yes, they do use a lot of the same weapons, but the mere fact of what do you call it? Like aim smoothing, like I said before, like exists in Apex, but does not exist in Titanfall. Yes, a lot of like movement abilities kind of transfer over, but it's not exactly the same. Like bunny hopping, wall bouncing, a ton of other like movement videos. There's like some video where it's like an hour plus of just movement tech in Titanfall 2. And then you could probably see like a bunch of movement videos based just for Apex, and there's a shitload of them. And they use a lot of similar terms because they both use the Source engine.
A legend drops. In this world of battle royale games, there has not been a hero battle royale shooter at all. And at this point, battle royale kind of seems like it's fading away. People are kind of sick of it a little bit. It's not in the best regards by most people.
Yeah, I mean, battle royales have came and they have stayed here since, what do you call it? Since PUBG, like you said, like, and even before PUBG, was it H1Z1? Yeah, I remember watching H1Z1 and PUBG games or streams back in the day, and then just another one, banger after banger, like H1Z1, PUBG, Fortnite. Was it then Apex and then Warzone? I'm not sure. I think that was the order. I could be wrong, but yeah, battle royales have had a lot of staying power.
But again, they've never played a hero version of it before.
Yeah.
So Apex launches, has all these different heroes, and is from the developer that made Titanfall. So a lot of people's eyes are on it, and it ends up being a really, really solid game.
Yeah.
But getting behind the free-to-play model, that always comes at some sort of price,
Yeah.
and that price is monetization, of course.
Yep.
The monetization in Apex actually is not that bad when you compare it to most other games. It's actually pretty decent for what it is. You have to think about what monetization is and what it being free to play.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills somehow. You just have to. Like a free-to-play game cannot survive if it makes $0.
Is to actually appreciate what they're actually doing. So they still do have the sort of I don't know, what do you call them, the loot box mechanics, which honestly, look, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, I did not mind loot box. I didn't mind it.
Well, loot boxes, there is nothing, no game is ever made better by adding a gambling mechanic into the game. If you want to pay for cosmetics, pay for them directly. Do not buy loot boxes with a chance for you to get them. If you want a skin, simply let a store exist in all of its entirety and not have this dopey ass like revolving like FOMO bullshit of like, oh, limited time, 50% off sale, blah 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 for these gun skins, these character skins. Just literally make a cosmetic, put it on the store, call it a day. There is nothing good about gambling mechanics or adding a gambling mechanic into the game to acquire cosmetics.
There was nothing wrong with it in my eyes. It was cool. Pay a couple bucks here. It's like buying a pack of cards, bro. Not sure what was really wrong with it. I don't know why that got so blown out of proportion, but hey, it's still technically in this game. And you can earn them by simply playing the game, which is even better. There's in-game currency that you can earn by winning, playing the game, etc., to buy things in the store, the actual store, where you could spend real world money, but you can also use that currency to buy things in the store as well. This is the best way, I think, to implement this sort of monetization strategy. I think you could actually go even further, maybe get a little bit better by doing something like Halo 5 actually did. I think Halo 5 had one of the greatest sort of earning reasons to keep playing the game that any game has had in a really long time, ever since Halo Reach. By playing the game,
I mean, I wouldn't know anything about Halo 5. I didn't play it, so maybe they did have a really good monetization scheme. I don't know.
And getting,
I do know that Halo Infinite constantly keeps catching strays because of their dog shit monetization scheme. So, yeah.
Certain amount of headshots or a certain amount of crouch kills, a certain amount of sniper rifle kills. You can get new helmets and new armor to customize your Spartan.
But are those cosmetics significant enough to make you want to do those challenges, in that like the developers put enough time and effort into those earnable cosmetics? Because when you compare modern day video games and their monetization schemes, and you start talking about cosmetics, usually earnable cosmetics are just simply not as cool looking as paid cosmetics. Whenever you're trying to get money out of the player, devs have an incentivization to make the paid cosmetics way cooler than the shit you can earn in the game. It's just how the whole model works.
Whatever you are, that's so sick, dude. And that's where games are failing to this day. Okay, look, I don't want to get on this crazy tangent. I can make a whole other video on that. So if you do want to hear a video about that and my opinions on it, just let me know in the comments, because I can talk about that. But anyways, back to the game. So Apex comes out. It's very good, has a monetization, it's free to play. The monetization isn't that bad. It's a hero shooter, so all the heroes are relatively good. Some heroes are a lot better than others, you know, in the beginning of the game. That's just how every game with implementing heroes is.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're all
Like the funnest time to play a new game is when it initially drops because there is no established meta. There's no good gun, good hero, bad hero. It's like, oh, you should have this kind of inventory as like your basic inventory, and then whatever from there. Like that's the most funnest time for as far as like multiplayer games go when they first come out.
you're always going to have somebody that's going to be able to be exploited in some way, but you know, over time they end up honing this down and the game just continues to get better. Continuous support on the game also makes it very favorable with players because they're actually listening to what the players have to say, which not a lot of companies.
Kinda. I would have to really dive into like the patch by patch thing to figure out, are the devs actually listening to the players. But that's another subject.
At the time we're really doing to that extent. But the downfall of Apex and its success and all the monetization and all the money it's making from that monetization actually, and again, take this with a grain of salt because this is just what I know from a friend that's a streamer that is very close with people in Respawn Entertainment, told me, and pretty much the success of Apex killed Titanfall 3, which was in development. Again, keep this grain of salt here because this isn't a factual information. This is just some stuff that I've heard, word of mouth that I've heard is what happened. The Titanfall 3 was a thing and it was being developed.
Yeah.
You know, as Apex was getting ready to release. Apex release, Titanfall 3 was still in development.
Honestly, they will probably come out with Titanfall 3. It just won't be in the near future. It will probably be many years until Titanfall 3 comes out. And when it comes out, it will probably not be what you expect. If you're expecting something like a even more polished up version of Titanfall 2 to include, like aim smoothing, clean up the visual clutter, have like some new abilities, have new Titans, have like another like really good engaging like story campaign, those things like could be there, but it would be plagued with all the modern problems of modern gaming. So I mean, I hope not. I hope when it comes out eventually that it's like it, brings back the nostalgia for me, but I am not holding my torch up for that game so much.
And ultimately, the massive success of Apex ended up actually scrapping the whole Titanfall 3. And now this could simply be from the perception that the game didn't do very well. And the reason why it didn't do very well was, like I said earlier again, when it was being released. It was being released in the pool of giants.
Yeah.
Like what do you expect? How do you expect your game to perform when you're releasing it in a window of massive AAA developers that have been here for decades, man? Like people have, the people are gonna buy this game. They're gonna buy the game that they've been playing for years, man, ever since their childhood. That's the thing that they focus. That's the thing that they wait for every single year. The new Call of Duty game at this time, the new Battlefield game, and Halo coming to PC for pretty much the first time in history, right?
Yeah.
It was a massive fail to release the game at that time. The April release date, like their first game, was the perfect time. That is a much longer window getting closer, to the release of those other games, Battlefield and Call of Duty, by releasing it in April. And that gives, people enough time to be able to save up money and, be able to buy those other games like they would anyways. But by releasing it in April, that would give people more of a chance to give the game a chance, to give the game a second try if they may have not liked certain things about the first one. Again, the first one was a success, right? 10 million, that's a lot of units.
Oh yeah.
But the second one ultimately about 4 units, which is a massive fail in comparison. Apex being
it's going from 10 million units to 4 million. Yeah, that's like a downgrade. Objectively it's a downgrade, but still, like 4 million units is still like pretty significant. Like it ain't nothing.
The absolute giant that it is now ultimately killed what Titanfall 3 could have been. It could have been, you know, the game to actually truly change gaming and put back movement and skill, raise the skill ceiling of shooters from, you know, just point and click, aim and click, to move and then click, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be able to add such dynamic movement in the game like it's never been seen before. I showed a clip, or, you know, earlier when I was talking about this, you know, as I was talking over it, but check out this other clip of some crazy movement and kills in Titanfall 2.
Oh shit. Wall run, get in there. Yep. Phase out. Get another one. Wall run, double jump. Yep. Jump, 180, wall run, double jump. Yep. Wall run. Yep. Dang. Dang. My man cooking.
Like, bro, that's actually crazy. But anyways, I don't want to make this video super long, so I'm just gonna end it here, guys. I'm just a guy on the internet, so take my opinion for what it is, but I really do feel like Apex killed a potential king, man. They had a diamond, and they just happened to release it at the worst possible time. They were coming off of a massive W, dude. Like, Titanfall was a massive W, and a really cool concept for a franchise. Now, I know a lot of people didn't end up liking the Titans, and it seemed a little bit more gimmicky than usual, but they had the movement down. They had the pilots mode where you don't have to use the Titans, and that mode was probably one of the biggest playlists of Titanfall and Titanfall 2 as well. But the Titans mode
was it like Pilot v Pilot was probably like one of the more popular ones, because the moment you get in a Titan, it's not like you felt grounded when you got in a Titan. Yes, you had like a little dash and whatnot, but like you can't really expect the Titans to be like wall running and double jumping and grappling hooking around like every like bit of the level, much the same way you'd expect a pilot to. Like, come on, it's a big ass robot.
Definitely had its place, and people really did enjoy that. But the other thing too that made the game fail was there was no rank system. At this time, you have a lot of these different games coming out, and there are rank systems. And sure, to be fair, this is around the time when they start becoming popular in all games, like not just, you know, MOBAs and Rocket League, and you know.
You got to have a rank system to like come out with your shooter if you want it to be like any sort of relevant.
Games like that, but all games are starting to have ranking systems because it's something that people can work toward. Like, it's something that can give a person a reason to keep playing the game. A lot of people don't want to just play the game to play the game. Sometimes they want to have a purpose to play, and that purpose is to get to the highest rank, to be the best in that game. And you know, at the time there was nothing like that. But if you look at Apex now, they have that sort of ranking system, right? Titanfall 3 could have been the game to have that and absolutely change everything. But it seems like it's scrapped. Now, scrap doesn't mean that they wiped all the game files and that game doesn't exist anymore. Usually it means that the game is just halted and put
it's put on not even the back burner. It's put on the backest of back burners that you could back burn.
Put into a void never to be seen again, but it doesn't mean they can't go back in that void, find it, and continue working on it. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that Titanfall 3 somehow, some way does come out, because I think the foundation that game set, the bar that game set, shooting wise, movement wise, everything, customization wise, was so far above everything else. There's not even a comparison. Even to this day, there is not a shooter that has the movement and fluidity that Titanfall 2 had.
Well, at least multiplayer FPS genre, you know, you could find a lot of similar things if you go into like roguelike shooters, which is very fun. I would suggest get into like some roguelike shooters.
Change my mind. Please change my mind. I really don't think you can, because there's nothing else that even comes close, man. Titanfall 2 was so good, and Apex has good movement. It's cool, but it lost
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of the things. It lost, the little jetpack boost, the wall running. You can run up walls, I think, in Apex, but you
Yeah.
can't do the side stuff.
Yeah.
It lost a lot of the, that sort of skill ceiling that you can be a player that's not super good at shooting, right? Because that's the one advantage that shooters have over every other genre of game. A shooter's a shooter.
Yeah.
So if you know how to aim your mouse, you can pick
Or just plug in a controller to use aim assist. You too can be an Apex predator.
up recoil patterns pretty easy. But movement, that's a completely different thing. Everybody's starting at ground zero, and Titanfall was that game. It was that game where everybody was starting at ground zero. Of course, if you could shoot, you could shoot. But if you weren't good at movement, that dude's gonna do all sorts of things like you saw in that clip, and you're gone. You're gone in a second. So anyways, that's it for this video, y'all. If y'all did enjoy the video, please leave me a sub. It really does help me out. Leave me a like too. That helps me out a ton.
All right.
And hopefully we get this video out to more and more people and get more opinions, man. What do y'all think about all this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And I respond to every comment. So
nice.
Just leave me a comment. I'll respond. Regardless if it's negative or positive, I'm here just to spread my opinion, man. Like I'm not trying to get people heated or anything like that. But this is what I truly feel, man. I feel like this for so long, and I finally just decided, I'm just gonna make a video on it. Like,
cool.
Screw it. I'm just gonna make a video. So that's this video. Anyways, guys, I love y'all, and I will see y'all next time.
Oh, go back.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. I dig it. But yeah. Titanfall 3 could come out. It's not gonna be. It'll probably come out after like was it like Elder Scrolls 5? Like sometime after that, and that's a long time away still. But yeah, I mean, I like the video. Apex pretty much did kill Titanfall 3. I still like Titanfall 2. Every so often I will go back and play the campaign just to see if I can like complete it a little bit faster. I'm not a speed runner or anything, but like, yeah, a lot of good talking points in there, dude. I like it, and I'm a fan now, and I want to see more. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.